Okay, morning, guys. It's Jeff, Godless Scummer. I am here back again, and I'm doing something a bit different from what my normal content today. Just paying, you know, tribute to a bit of my childhood in a way. That a couple of days ago, I think it was yesterday, it was announced the death of Albert Uderzo, who's was the co-creator of Asterix, which was a massive part of my childhood. Now, I'm going to apologise right off the start if I get some pronunciations wrong in this. I'm probably going to butcher some of the French and Italian pronunciations, but I really wanted to pay tribute to Albert Uderzo, who's one of the two creators of this beloved comic book character, who really, I think, captured the spirit of the Gauls, and it grew a reputation worldwide. He died at the age of 92. It was a heart attack. It was the French press had quoted family members saying that he died of a heart attack in a Paris suburb. It was a heart attack. It wasn't the other thing that is dominating the news at the moment. So we'll see who's in the chat. I see Critical Cripples here, Swiss Tone 64, Twisted Hippie I think's here. Great to have you. Great to have you guys with me for this one. So I thought I might just start with a bit of a biographical piece about Albert, and he was born in the morning of 25th of April 1927. He was actually an Italian citizen at this point rather than the French one. His actual full name was Alberto Alejandro Uderzo, which he would like to change his first name to Albert, to a bit more French sounding. He was born with 6 fingers on each hand. Additional fingers were actually surgically removed early in childhood as a precaution. And apparently as an infant, he'd violently pull on them when he was enraged or annoyed. When he was a toddler, he moved to Paris. The Uderzos moved to Paris, and he really, in his childhood, experienced sort of elements of racism against Italian immigrants that was going on at the time there. Particularly, this is a time of Mussolini was in power in Italy, and there was a bit of a lot of deeply held resentment against sentiments against Mussolini's dictatorship and his involvement with things like the Spanish Civil War. Uderzo at one point became the anger of the victim of Italian-German bombardment in the Spanish Civil War. Said a man spit in his face. However, apart from the occasional ethnic resentment towards Italians, but as a young child, he became interested in art for the first time, and his talent was there quite early on, and a lot of his siblings also showed a lot of interest in art and had talents, but he especially, I mean, the oldest of the Uderzos, Bruno, became a bit of an inspiration, and in turn, his brother also noted, his elder brother noted Albert's talent. He didn't aim to become a professional artist in childhood, and actually dreamt about a career actually as a clown of all things, and then one time was dabbled with the idea of going into aircraft engineering Throughout some more creations and travel in the next few years, after the war, I mean, when he started to really get into art a bit more, he met up with this man, Rennie Goscinny, in 1951. They became good friends, and in 1952, they newly office of Paris of a Belgian company, World Press. They put their first creations, the Papa, to paper. In 1958, they developed that as a serial for a Franco-Belgian comic magazine, Tintin. That ran until 1962, but it was in 1959 that Goscinny and Uderzo become editor and art director, respectively, of the Pilot magazine, which is a new venture aimed more at older children. The magazine's first issue introduced Asterix to the world, and it was a hit from day one. I mean, what they wanted to do with Asterix was they wanted a comic strip with French themes, and Uderzo would say that they toyed with different ideas and periods, some history, and in getting to kind of look for Asterix was interesting, because I mean, Uderzo himself was quite inspired by like Disney, especially Walt Disney's early animations, and getting the look right, the right look for Asterix took a bit of time. And Uderzo would say in a interview in the Independent that he drew him sort of a much bigger, more handsome looking kind of character, but it was Goscinny who suggested the changes to make Asterix more like what we recognize him to be today. However, it would be Albert who hit on the idea of giving Asterix this slightly larger, slightly dimmer, but ultimately kind-hearted and fun-loving sidekicks, Obelix, who I think is just as important to the Asterix franchise as a character and as Asterix himself. I mean, it wouldn't work without Obelix. That's a personal opinion of mine. It was serialized in Pilot in 1961. The first story, Asterix the Gaul, was published as an individual album, and it could be argued that it could be a case made that what became known as the Asterix books may have been almost they were almost kind of graphic novels before graphic novels were a thing. That argument could be made, and René Goscinny, one of the other co-creator, who was the writer for the Asterix books, he passed away quite young. He was only like 51 when he passed away. He passed away in 1977, and afterwards, Albert continued to write and illustrate the books all on his own through his own publishing house, which he called Albert René, naming them after two of the and even the covers. Even though Albert was writing the books himself, he always, even years after his partner's death, would credits would read Goscinny and Uderzo. It was weird that happened, because at one point Uderzo actually said that he considered killing off Asterix before he made the decision to kind of carry on the work alone. He spent 3 months crafting each book story, and twice as long on the drawings. I mean, Albert's personal life has been interesting. He married in 1953 and had one daughter, Sylvie, born in 1956. In something happened in the mid 2000s that led a little bit further. Uderzo fired Sylvie and her husband as managers of his estate and agreed to share of his additions of share of Albert Rene to hash it livre. Sylvie accused him in the Common and Le Mans that this was a sale to a corporation. It was as if the gates of the Gaul. Actually, she actually said that the gates of the very Gaulish video in the village in question were had been thrown over, but open to big business. But in Albert would actually go on to sue his daughter and his son-in-law for over allegations of psychological violence. Sylvie responded with a lawsuit of her own, but ultimately the whole thing was thrown out of court in 2014, and they reached an amicable settlement. Albert had stopped working on the Asterix books back in 2011. I think was the last time he actually worked on a book. There've been other people who have written titles since, but and we get to where we are on 24th of March this year. Albert passed away at the age of 92. So there's a little bit about Albert, but you know, it said that he'd been very tired and sickly a bit for several weeks before his death. But during his lifetime, I should say that Albert was, in 1985, he was awarded the Legion of Honor in France, which is it was effectively a knighthood. He was inducted into the Eisner Award Hall of Fame in the United States in 2005, and in 2007 was awarded the Order of the Netherlands. Hi, Hesse. So there was a bit about Albert and his life, and you know, I think what I want to do now is maybe want to talk a bit about some of the characters and a bit about some of the stories. Now, be aware, for anyone who's more familiar with the original French versions, I'm going to be using a lot of the English versions of the wonderfully puntastic names of the characters throughout this video. The protagonists are, you know, the title characters are Asterix, Obelix, and a lot of the Gaulish names all seem to end with IX, as well as, you know, other sort of pseudo Gaulish names in the series. It's in a lot of things it was homage to some real life Gaulish chieftains such as Vercingetorix, or Orgetorix, you know, who were famous Gaulish chieftains. Vercingetorix, he was a Gaulish chieftain who actually united the Gauls against Caesar, and actually, you know, and actually is the only person to have ever won a battle against Julius Caesar, although ultimately he was defeated at Alesia and surrendered to Julius Caesar, and was eventually murdered several years later. Sorry, I'm just seeing this in the chat. Okay, just as a point, collecting comics into albums was a thing in French and continental industries before Asterix. Tintin was okay. That's a fair point, you know. It just took. Yeah, I'm sure it did. I mean, we had sort of comic book annuals in the UK. There were mainly things like the so, but the main setting for this series, for those who aren't familiar, it's an unnamed coastal village in northern France in the Armorica, which is modern day Brittany. It's set in the year 50 BC. Julius Caesar, he's conquered all of Gaul for the Roman Empire. Well, almost all of Gaul would be a better way to say. This little Armorican village has held out against the Romans and the Romans cannot beat them. Large part known to because they can gain superhuman strength on a temporary basis by drinking a magic potion, but brewed by the local druid Getafex. So that's also panoramic. So that is his original French name. And the chief of the village, vital statistics. So you see what I mean? I love the puntastic names in this. What's that one? Yeah. Okay, that's interesting, Hissy. Yeah, I'll put that up. Sorry, why can't I see that bigger on my screen? Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, the humor in these books are often centers around puns and caricatures, tongue-in-cheek stereotypes of contemporary European nations and French regions. I mean, much of the initial humor in the books was French specific, which delayed some of the translations into other languages. I mean, if you look at some of the books, I mean, some of them it was more than 10 years before they were translated into English, for example. And one of the reasons for this, it was a bit of a fear of losing the original spirit of the story with this. Now, obviously, I'm going to go through a few of the characters of this. Yeah, Hissy, I will check. I will check that out if it's good. I'll have a look for it. It's obviously the main character is our Asterix, who the books are named after. He's I suppose he's probably he's a brave, intelligent, shrewd warrior. Despite his size disadvantage, but of course the magic potion makes up for that in an awful lot. He's one of the sort of most smartest and sensible members of this village. He often is chosen for the dangerous or important missions. And unlike a lot of the other villagers, he's not into really into joining in the brawls just for the fun of it. Although he doesn't mind a good fight if the cause is right. He doesn't. By contrast, his big pal Obelix, who I'll talk about, who I think really makes the books work and the stories work every bit as much as Asterix does. You can't really have one without the other, I don't feel. So he's the closest friends. He sculpts menhirs, which are large stones, like you see in something like Stonehenge or something like that. So he sculpts them and delivers them. He's a tall guy, has a bit of a weight issues and a rather hefty appetite, especially for wild boar. But anyone who perhaps would call him fat is going to get knocked out on the spot by Obelix. Now he is permanently has superhuman strength due to having fallen into the magic potion pot as a baby, which it apparently had a permanent effect on him, which the druid Getafix won't let him take any more of the potion because there was a fear of side effects. But much to the disappointment of Obelix, who's just always interested in sampling anything culinary, shall we say. But in many ways now, Obelix, he's got and this is, I think, is another one of the main characters, though he doesn't really have dialogue, is his pet dog Dogmatix, who, unlike his immense master, he's a tiny little dog. He can occasionally have a temper, but loves his loves this big lover of trees. Got very, in one particular story, got very, very angry when trees were being cut down. Dogmatics came into it in one of my favourite stories. It was the fifth book, called Asterix in the Banquet, and he's just following them around, and they don't. They when they're in Lutetia, which is obviously modern day Paris, this dog starts following them around and just seems to follow them for a whole journey around France. And it isn't until like the very last panel that he suddenly barks, and Obelix notices him and pets him, and suddenly he's got a pet dog, and it's become very, very affectionate towards his dog. Now you've got obviously then the next character in this would be the village druid Getafix, or Panoramix, as he's known in France. So he's often, he's got the kind of what you'd expect, this kind of druid. He's almost kind of, but you've got what you'd call the Gandalf kind of look, I'd suppose. Long white beard, white robe, red cloak. Usually seen in possession of a small golden sickle, which is what he uses to cut things to make his potions with. In none of the early books, he's portrayed more as a friend to Asterix, but he's become more of the mentor kind of figure as the books have gone on. And then you've got, the chief of the village, Vital Statistics. He's the chief of this village, middle-aged, big man with red hairs, pigtails, a huge moustache. Generally reasonable, well informed, but not necessarily always that ambitious, despite much to the chagrin of his wife Impedimenta. And he has a bit of a failing for food and drink, and it can be a bit superstitious as well. His main superstition is one day that the sky is gonna fall on his head. Another character that's I wouldn't say necessarily a key character, but a supporting character a lot, is a Cacophonix, the village bard. He's usually a supporting character. Occasionally he's in some more prominent roles in books. Now his part, Cacophonix, he really views himself as a genius and a superb singer and a great artist. And does not take well to criticism. And the truth is, he's awful. He's an awful. Oops, I dropped out there for a second. I don't quite know what happened. Do you know what, here? See, I don't actually know. I don't have that information on hand right now, and the reason being is all my books are in the loft. I had quite a few of these. I'd have to look up to who did those but these are quite old ones. So I'd have to look back to see who did the translations. Then I can't actually say. I was saying that where was I? I was on Cacophonix, wasn't I? Now most notably he's singing does tend to offend people, and they'll go to great lengths. Particularly fully automatics, the blacksmith, who tends to knock him on the head if he so much as thinks of singing a song. And one running joke is throughout the series is that at the end of the panel of each book, there's usually a banquet. Yeah. Okay. What's this? Thanks for this, Tone. And you're having a look out to find out who the other translator was. So yeah, the running gag with cacophonics is he's usually tied up or gagged or something at the end of each banquet somewhere because they don't want him basically to and Derek Hockridge. Thanks very much. Cheers, mate. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, see, I'll say I had a couple of the omnibuses as well, and some of the best stories I think of the whole series in there. There's some other notable characters. The fully automatics, the blacksmith unhygienics, the fishmonger. Those two tend to be getting into fights an awful lot of time, usually over fully automatics making jibes about the fish unhygienics cells. And then there's geriatrics. I mean, there've been 38 books in this series, animated and live action movies, even a theme park. I want the live action movies. Less said about them, the better. I'm not a big fan of them. I'm not a big fan of those books at all, of those films at all. Really, first one with because Christine Cloney and Gerard Depardieu was watchable, and I quite enjoyed Terry Jones's dubbing of it. That was mildly amusing, but it still wasn't a great film. And they've gone, to me, I feel the live action ones have gone downhill just rapidly ever since then. I wouldn't watch them now. But out of those 38 books, Uderzo was involved with 34 of them. But this may just be a personal opinion of mine, but most of my favorite stories come from before 77, when it was Goscinny and Uderzo when they worked together. And I mean, some of the stories Albert wrote by himself were good, but I really feel the golden era was with Goscinny and Uderzo as a team. That was where I really wanted to do some full reviews of some of the books, but because, as I mentioned earlier, some of them are up in my loft, and it would take me ages to get them. And because of other time constraints, I never really had the time to write down notes or any deep dives into books. But I can definitely make some recommendations. And maybe if those of you who are in the chat or whatever, like to say some of your favourite Asterix stories. If you're big fans like I am, I'd say obviously the first book's always the good parts to start, Asterix the Gaul. But it's always a good to start with that one. But to me, I mean, the thing where it really I felt was really good was the second book, Asterix and the Golden Sickle, which is one of my personal favourites. Asterix and the Banquet, the fifth book's one I love. Asterix in the Cauldron is good. Mansions of the Gods is very good. Asterix in Britain, Asterix and Caesar's Gift, Obelix and Co. Asterix at the Olympic, Asterix and Cleopatra. There's so many of them, but those are a few. I mean, with the film adaptations and that, and as far as the films go, I'd definitely check out the animated version of Asterix and Cleopatra. I think that's an absolute must. I think that was only the second of the Asterix animated films, and I think arguably the best. And there's the 12 Tasks of Asterix, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I mean, that wasn't really based on a previous book. It wasn't. There was a book made later. In my opinion, I mean, this Asterix is something that I think could be enjoyed by all ages, and and I think even now, look back at some of the Asterix in Britain, Asterix and Cleopatra are my faves. We're talking the books, and we're talking the films, because I think both are good in both respects. So those are amongst my I do like them, those stories. I think Asterix and Cleopatra as a film is the film version is very good. These Romans are indeed crazy. Hissy, I don't know if you wanted to talk about it, want to chat about this at all, but I got all the notes I've written down, to be honest. But in my you did mean the book Swiss Tone. Yeah, okay, cool. But yeah, both are good. I mean, there are some film adaptations that I'm not so keen on. Like, I mean, there was the Mansions of the Gods. I wasn't. It was okay. It was that was the I did. It was like, I think it was the last animated film I did. It was back 2014 or something. I think they released it. It was okay, but there was maybe a little too much from the book, and some elements of some of the humor I felt was missing a little bit. But yeah, to just conclude to me, this for me as a kid, this really got me in. This actually, in a lot of ways, got me interested in ancient history as well. And got me in a strange way to start looking at that at the Roman period a bit. Oh, there was one last year, was there? What was that one? I must have missed that. I can't believe it. I missed one. Like I said, I know with the live action ones, I sort of stopped paying attention a little bit with them. Secret of the Magic Potion. Do you know what? I'm gonna have to. I might check it out then. I might check that one out. So really, this was. I'm kind of almost at the end of all my. You haven't seen it yet, so okay. So we don't know if this is a good one or not, but we won't know till you watch it, will we? We won't know. But I mean, it definitely got me interested. I mean, it got me really to. I mean, to read a little bit about the Gallic Wars and like Vercin and things about Vercingetorix and so on, and like where and very man who probably came closest to anyone of actually properly defeating Caesar. But ultimately fell at Alesia. And actually, in the books, it was actually written in that the chief vital statistics had actually served with Vercingetorix at Alesia, and the shield that he's carried around on, it was the shield that belonged to Vercingetorix. That was kind of added in as a storyline, actually. So, I mean, so really, I just kind of wanted to conclude that really by just what I wanted to do was just maybe pay a bit of a tribute to Albert Uderzo, and really, I suppose in a way, to a big part of my childhood. And it's almost made me realise how much I want to pick these books up again and read them, because it's been so long. So I'll just mainly I'll throw it open to live chat, or to anyone if I know you and you want to come into the call. Okay, well, Hissy's you're going to jump on. Give me a couple of minutes. I'm going to stick the headphones on then, and I'll send you the. I'm going to probably have to put myself out of the call for. Oh no, I won't have to. What am I about? I was being silly. No. Sorry, guys, having some technical issues there for a second. more me being silly than anything, I think. But okay, I've sent you a link, Hissy, by the way. But yeah, I mean, this is a bit different from what I normally do as content, by the way. I don't normally do, I don't really do comic stuff an awful lot. And this isn't really what I do, but this was something that, you know, when I saw this, I thought I've got to do some sort of video or stream about this, because I did love those books. And I think, you know, Asterix belongs up there with any comic book franchise, in my opinion. And the humor, I think, you know, you can be 8 to 80, you can get the humor in these books, in my opinion. There's a lot of unfortunately, I have coffee. I have no magic potion. I've not got. So it's okay. So let's have a look. Secret of the Magic Potion. That's one I'm going to have to look up then, Swiss Tone. It definitely looks like one I'm going to have to look up. So it just makes Asterix and Obelix look like bullies, which was. Yeah, it does. It does in a lot of ways. Yeah. I mean, this is I think that's a very good criticism, I think, of them. I think they do. It does. That's why big part of the reason why it doesn't work in a lot of ways. It does. I mean, the violence in the books has to be, by nature, is cartoonish. You know, that doesn't really always that doesn't translate as well to it doesn't translate so well as well to, you know, to live action. But that's definitely a very, very valid criticism, in my opinion. Yeah, happened a bit in the animated series. Okay. I mean, it is a bit of a way because, in, you know, technically speaking, you know, nobody physically is going to be able to challenge Obelix. Let's be quite clear, and or even Asterix once he's had a bit of the potion. I mean, I find a lot of the stories that I found the most interesting were the. I did send you a link, by the way. Hit. I did send you a link there, Hissy, so you should have it by now. But a lot of my favourite stories, though, were the ways when the Romans would try other ways of trying to subdue the village, like the mansions of the gods or Obelix and Co, which where the, I think Obelix and Co is where they tried to effectively corrupt them and corrupt the Gauls, and this Roman guy coming there and started buying up all of Obelix's menhirs, and everyone then suddenly everyone in the village was started selling menhirs for the sestertii, and Gaul they started to try and corrupt the village, and or tried, you know, subtle ways to get them to adapt to be more Roman. In a lot of ways, I thought those were the stories that I personally enjoyed a lot more. but rather than just necessarily just straight up fight kind of ones in a sense. So some of them were good. I mean, I suppose if you do read some of the books in a way, it could be argued that Asterix, the Gauls do kind of come off as bullies particularly when you got the Romans that are based near that village and know only too well what's going to happen to them if they go there. They're going there. They're terrified because they know they're going to get beaten up badly. It's generally when it's generally when you get the new Romans arrive or whatever that they go in there all gung ho and then just get soon find out rather quickly that so. I did send. I don't know if you saw it, Hissy. I did send you a link, but oh, where was I going to go with this? Yeah, I mean, but a lot of the time as well, because the reason I like some of those stories like Mansions of the Gods and Obelix and Co. were kind of in a way, you're just watching the sort of insanity of the village going collectively insane or whatever, and with this stuff, it's quite. I don't know why I got more humor out of that stuff in a way. Yeah, okay, mate. Thanks for popping in. To be honest, I might shut this down unless Hissy's going to join. Yeah, it's just kind of what I wanted to do with this, really. But here we go. Hi, Hissy. It's just kind of what I wanted to do with this, really. I hear myself in the background.
Yeah, because I've got you on my TV. I'll turn it off.
Yeah, no worries. Hiya, how you keeping? Hiya. Yeah, I sort of gone through all my notes, and I thought it was going to take a lot longer than this. I thought, I've gone through all my notes. So, were you a big fan of Asterix then?
To be honest, it was one of those things. I remember the animated series from when I was like so young. I've got flash memories of it.
Yeah.
And actually, what reminded me what it is when I saw the picture of Asterix circulating on Twitter. And then it was very much it was in the background.
Yeah.
Because I was never a comic books person. I was never a comics kid. It just, I don't know about what you think, but in the UK, comics are just not aimed at girls.
I don't think that's a UK exclusive problem. I mean, I think the first ones, I think that were, I think probably one of the few writers who perhaps did alter that a little bit was Neil Gaiman, because some of his comics weren't specifically aimed at girls or women. I found a lot of
aimed at men. I think.
Yeah, a lot of a lot of his Sandman series. A lot of women did seem to be able to get something out of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, what this has actually done, and I'm sure I'm not the only person. I'm literally scrolling through Amazon now, just like, hold on, I can get all 12 omnibuses on Amazon, and I'm so tempted. Because you can get them either as Kindle or as paperback, or as hardback. I'm not paying £80 for a hardback omnibus. That's mad.
Good. No.
But the paperback ones are like £10-15 each. And for 3 comics, that's not bad. And the artwork will be there, which is what's most important.
I think I know I got an omnibus that had 6 books in it, which was 6 of my favourite stories as well. From the that was the Goscinny and Uderzo era. But I often found that sometimes with some of the film adaptations that sometimes the humour doesn't always transfer. Some of the animated films it does transfer quite well, but I think a lot of the sort of subtle stuff that say adults are going to pick up on is not quite there so much in the films.
I am quite looking forward to rereading these because I'm going to like get them and read them. Because I remember the humour of Asterix and Obelix being very slapstick when I was young and very childish. So I'm wondering if I'll pick up on different things as an adult.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would. I mean, because I found like there was sort of slapstick element or whatever. Then when I started reading them a bit more as a teenager, it's like there were certain things I was picking up on that okay, this is different. I didn't get this at first. But it's even just sort of like I mean, a lot of it is puns. I've got to be honest. Obviously, the names are pretty much of all the characters are pretty much puns of some kind.
Yeah, I'm just looking here because hold on, let me make sure I'm using the right audio. Yeah, okay. Because I'm looking and I think I can get pretty much so you've got the omnibus one, which is Asterix the Gaul, Asterix and the Golden Sickle, and Asterix and the Goths.
Oh, so, yeah, that's the first 3 books, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think what they've done is they've released the books literally as a full set.
Yeah.
Which is quite, useful. So I'm probably going to spend a solid afternoon or so searching around eBay, books, and Amazon, finding the cheapest versions of them all.
Yeah, I mean,
because I don't read a series unless I've got all of them.
yeah. I get that. I mean, I got, where's it down here? I almost stopped buying them a little while ago, but I had about the first 4 sort of like collections of Spawn, which is the thing I started reading in the mid-90s. But that's a comic, but yeah, I mean, it's really weird. Even though I was a teenager, even though I was into like real dark stuff like Spawn, I could still sort of open up an Asterix book and get a lot of fun with it.
I think what always amused me, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, your teaching of the Romans is very one-sided.
Yeah.
And it very much felt like Asterix and Obelix filled in the gaps.
In a way, in a certain way, it did. Yeah.
It was that wish fulfillment of, yeah, the Romans are cool, but I wish someone would teach them a lesson.
Yeah.
She says, wearing a.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's I did a Conqueror virtual challenge.
Okay.
Basically, the idea is you walk a certain distance and they map it onto something virtually, so you can track how far along you would have got along Hadrian's Wall, or they've got ones that are like to different places.
I want to actually walk Hadrian's Wall someday. I want to do that.
I'd love to do it, but I don't think I've got the fitness for it at all. It'd take me about a week, I think.
I was supposed to be walking a wall in just under 3 months' time, which will not be happening now. That was the Great Wall of China, and obviously what's happened over the lot recently is I think we can safely say that's not happening. Plus, I'm in the same boat as you now, aren't I? We can't go outside for the foreseeable future. I know.
I'm just and the thing is, what's irritating me, I know I'm one of those people who's going to get that message. I haven't got it yet. No. And they're saying any time until the 29th you can get it. And I'm just like...
Yeah.
It's not helpful keeping me hanging. Just tell me
No.
whether you want me off work for 12 weeks or not, so I can make arrangements.
Well, I had a family member. I'm not going to say who, but they got the message about 24 hours or so after I did, and this family member's got cancer. And so, which I would have thought, well, you're way more. I was like, you should have got that first. You're way more at risk than I am.
Yeah, I can only imagine they're doing it alphabetically. That's my only theory at the minute.
That's the only thing I can. That's the only thing I can guess.
The thing is, though, they've got all these government servers and computers. It's not difficult to send out a mass text message. They've got all our phone numbers from when we registered to vote, so I don't see why they're dragging it out. There's no reason for it. All it's doing is making people worry. Because my thing is, if I don't get that message, I know my work are going to be like, well, you can come in then.
Yeah. So I've had to forward I forwarded a text message on to my my employer. They've been okay so far, but I'm obviously going to have to send them whenever we get this letter. I'm going to have to send them send them a copy, just photocopy one and send it to them, I think, as well, just to make sure.
I mean, my manager's been really good, and she sort of said, because she knows about my, like, I have asthma, that's why I'd be at risk.
I've got Crohn's disease, which isn't the problem. It's more the medication that I take for it. It's an immunosuppressant.
Yeah, because Crohn's, I was going to say, because Crohn's is an autoimmune, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's, not
it's
helpful.
It's more probably the medication that I'm on that's probably the problem as well, because azathioprine's a immune suppressant, so probably not.
See, I'm in the weird position where they're actually doing studies on one of the medications I'm on, fluoxetine. Yes, before anyone asks, that's Prozac. I've been on it for a long time. It works for me. I'm not ashamed. And they're using that, and they're saying it's got antiviral properties. And they're thinking that it might actually be a treatment for this.
Yeah.
But then the other medication I'm on for pain and nerve damage is gabapentin, and that suppresses your immune system, and one of the side effects is getting a virus. So I don't know if they're going to balance each other out or not.
Yeah. Oh, good luck. I just realised we've gone way off the topic of
but yeah, Asterix, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna try and keep it a little bit on topic, because otherwise we just get talking about all the doom and gloom.
Yeah, let's not do that. I've seen enough of that. I'm getting sick of it.
I have too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're saying you're gonna sort of look at some of the books, if you can.
Yeah, I'm sort of looking. You can get them. I'm trying to see if I can get the hardbacks on eBay, because all the paperback ones are on Amazon. But if I'm going to get the collection, I may as well, get them so they look pretty on my shelf. There's worse reasons, but
I'm looking at that paper. Yeah, see, that's amazing, isn't it? Like, first one here, I'm looking at Amazon right now. Paperback £10.78, hardcover £86.
Yeah, and it's
I'm
just like
I'm not that. I like Asterix. I'm not that big of a fan.
Not that much. Yeah, not that much. That's for collections, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get the full Uderzo 10 set of omnibuses for like £60 on eBay. Looking at this, the leather bound version of it. If you're a massive fan, which I'm not going to do that. Set of 7 leather bound Asterix comics in German, £150. So a little bit out of my price range.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things that irritates me about comics, because comics are designed to be bought by kids who are, let's be honest, spending their pocket money.
That was originally what they were how they were intended. They're probably not. They're not sold that way at all now.
Yeah, they're not, and it's just.
In fact, I'd say the majority of them are not even aimed at children anymore.
They're really not, are they? I mean, can you imagine kids reading something like the Deadpool comics or something?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some. Depends on what Deadpool ones it is. Some of them are. There's some of them are a little bit toned down.
Yeah.
Some are Marvel, because obviously Disney are, but they do have things like the Marvel the Max series, which is totally aimed at adults.
Yeah. But then
Which,
I think that's one of the things about Asterix as well, though, isn't
yeah,
it? It's just clean fun.
it is
It's a bit
absolutely,
of
yeah,
slapstick going on, bit of, a few
yeah.
puns for the adults, but there's nothing
I mean,
you wouldn't be happy taking your kid to see in the
yeah.
cinema. It's
See,
very.
so if I put this up on my screen for a second, like this thing here, this is seriously not aimed at kids. I mean,
definitely.
This is really, if I had a kid, I wouldn't let him read it, quite frankly.
Isn't the Punisher meant to be like some sort of ex-marine with like PTSD and like classic vetsploitation genre?
Yeah, he I mean, he's been sort of rewritten a couple of times, but that's basically it. Yeah. I mean, the Punisher is, I wouldn't even call it. He's at best you could say anti-hero, but he's not really he's not a good character at all.
Bloke, is he? No, it's not like Deadpool where you can sort of laugh at the slapstick where he kills people and what have you. It's not at all.
But I mean, but even like say in Asterix, there was the occasional little nod to the reader, like break the fourth wall, which kind of what Deadpool does, but they didn't do it overboard with Asterix. But Deadpool's very unique because he's completely self-aware of what he is, and
but that's what makes Deadpool funny, I think. Whereas I'm just looking because the Amazing Asterix Omnibus, there's at least 2 different series of omnibuses. And it does depend because some of them are just collections of various ones. Some of them are the sort of the 12 series omnibus that's just got most of the stories in it.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, looking at this, because I'm just searching quite quickly, it seems to me if you want to reread these books, the easiest and cheapest way of doing it is going to be buying the 12 omnibuses, going on Wikipedia, comparing what's on there, and buying any other ones separately. Not that I think there's going to be many, because there's 12 omnibuses and there's only 38 books in total.
Yeah.
So there might be 2 missing.
Yeah, and a lot of them, as I said, I mean, really, I feel like the golden era was really, I mean, some of the stuff Albert Uderzo did by himself. Some of the stories were good, but it was the when they had the collaboration with Rene Goscinny, who was really the writer of them, and it was Albert who did a lot of the the artwork. He drew the characters, and but I mean, some of Albert's stuff was good, but it wasn't as good as when they were working as a pair. It wasn't quite the same.
No, I think it as well the sort of, it's the combination of the humor, although it did I don't know, you were talking about translation earlier.
From
what I remember, it did translate quite well, especially as a kid watching it, not quite sure so much as an adult, but it is definitely, I think it's from what you said and what I remember, and please understand I'm draining the dregs of my memory right now. Because I'm going back to when Asterix and Obelix was on probably BBC Two in a morning, and was probably on about the same time as that TV show it was another animated one, Summit of the Yukon. I remember something about a Yukon.
Oh, okay. I'm just
Yvonne of the Yukon, or Von of the Yukon.
Okay, yeah. Because I mean, most of what they done was putting stuff into films. I'm trying to look at this. I'd say it's really
what's
weird.
really odd is that the you can get the Omnibus 1 brand new for like a tenner.
Yeah.
But then the Omnibus 2, for some reason, is double the price of any other of the omnibuses. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know which. I think it's because it's got Asterix the Gladiator in it though, and that's the one I remember reading. I'm sure I read that at school.
Yeah. Asterix the Gladiator. Yeah. Because they did think there was a film called Asterix versus Caesar, which was a kind of, they amalgamated. They've done this in a few stories, so they amalgamated sort of elements of two books, like. They did Asterix the Legionary and Asterix the Gladiator, which then they took elements of both stories to blend into a film.
Yeah,
they did that with the film Asterix in the Big Fight, which they obviously took Asterix in the Big Fight and Asterix in the Soothsayer, but it had, to be honest, it had most of the plot centered around Asterix and the Soothsayer, and I don't quite understand why they called it after the Big Fight. But because not a lot of that story was in that film.
Yeah,
it was a bit strange that they named it that.
I mean, I am quite happy that it is still a #1 bestseller on Amazon. That makes me happy.
I think as skeptics, we could probably get a little bit of we could probably get a bit out of Asterix and the Soothsayer, because it's this when the Soothsayer kind of comes to the village, and it's like Asterix is the one person who knows right from the beginning that the guy's a con man, he's a charlatan.
But I mean, as well, that's a very. I mean, the one thing I would say I don't look for in this series, and I'll never look for in this series, is historical accuracy.
Oh, of course not. No.
Because the idea of someone from that era not believing in oracles and soothsayers is a bit.
Yeah.
That's far-fetched. It's probably more far-fetched to think someone didn't believe in the oracles and soothsayers than it is to believe that something an oracle or soothsayer said came true.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I would imagine
because
so.
It was your oracles were essentially your weathermen of the day. You didn't do anything without consulting the oracle, especially like large state things.
Yeah.
So that amuses me for reasons, but
I mean, I think a lot of the things about the books was trying to obviously put elements of like modern humor into these like ancient times or whatever. I mean, like for example, like the city of Letitia, which is modern day Paris. It's all done with like ox and cart and stuff, but they've still got the traffic jams there. People getting. And the Parisians getting.
I vaguely remember that skit about traffic jams. Yeah,
that's the stuff. That's the sort of stuff I really enjoyed with those, and when like Asterix in Britain or so on, when they because they made the pun about it was like, this was obviously a lot of stereotypes that they might have had of British people or whatever, but it was like. The reason that the Romans managed to conquer Britain was it was like they're all they're having this big battle, and suddenly it's like 4:00. Oh, break time, lads.
The British are unionized.
The British. It was like, or it's like, we're going home for the. We have a weekend, dear boy. We don't fight on the weekends.
Yeah, work to rule.
We're like,
which, to be fair, if you wrote that now, you'd probably write the French in that, saying something like that rather than the British.
So, very much
gone far more sort of. I mean, all power to them. I wish we'd stayed that way.
Well, and I mean, okay, this is a bit of a spoiler for it, but one of the things is one of the plot devices in this that because Asterix was supposed to be bringing a batch of the magic potion to this one little British village that was hanging out against the Romans, and that they lose the potion gets destroyed, but Asterix sort of makes up this other batch from these, like this leaf or something, or they brew it up, but of course, so they use it as a placebo effect on the Britons, so they go out and absolutely beat the crap out of the Romans, and they're saying, that's rather good stuff. I thought, and they find out they found out what it is, and it's apparently this stuff's called tea. So we'll make this our national drink.
Cool.
But they're saying, like, they're making the potion up, and like, I have a spot of milk and sugar in my head, dear boy. You know? So they're doing all that sort of humour with it.
What I might actually do, I've just had a thought. I might do, because I know I've mentioned on one of your streams before, I'm looking at starting my own channel. I might get these and do a series of reading them as an adult.
Yeah,
I literally don't remember reading them other than sort of flash here and there as a kid.
See, I might have to read some of them back again, because it's. I mean, although I think the humour does translate. I mean, I do realise in a series of rose tinted glasses, it would be interesting to see now, how well they hold up. But I mean, I was reading them well into my adult years.
So
but it's just been a few years since I've read them.
Remembering them in the same way I remember sort of Hercules and Xena on Channel 5. I watched once, and I know not to go back because it will probably be ruined for me.
I got to admit, I wasn't a big fan of either of those at the time, to be honest. But
I mean, to be fair, I was a preteen.
I never really got into them.
Because for me, my morning
I never really got into them.
Morning television, I think, used to be. It used to be Hercules, Xena, Grizzly Adams, and then you switch channels for Everybody Loves Raymond. That used to be my morning TV before school. And I'd literally, my parents hated me getting up to watch TV of all things. But I'd wake up at stupid o'clock in the morning to watch these things before school. And anyhow, the broadcast was running late for any reason, I'd kick off if I missed the end of the episode. No way I was missing the end of the episode, especially for Grizzly Adams. So...
But
I like to think I wasn't too much of a brat as a kid, but that was one of my, this is my line. I'm sure my dad would disagree.
But I think it'd be interesting to definitely go back and read some of these and just see how well am I looking for these through rose tinted glasses, or I personally can't see that I could not read them again and still get a lot out of them of Asterix. I just think I could do that, whereas I think there's certain stuff that I read as a kid that I could go back and read now, and I probably would be like, Yeah,
I mean, I remember reading sort of the Goosebumps books, and even then they were a bit naff. So I'm sort of, I'm wary of going back. Trying to find Omnibus 2, and I just can't find it anywhere new. And it is. I think you can always tell with things whether they will hold up as an adult, I think, and a lot of it is if they didn't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Because then when you read it as an adult, you can tap into the nostalgia of it without it being cringeworthy. Whereas if it actually took itself seriously for kids, you look at it as an adult and you go, calm down, sort of.
Yeah, I think that's what I think is very good about the Asterix books. They don't take themselves too seriously. It's it is just very good, light-hearted fun. A lot of it. The Swiss back. No. Go back to Xena. It really repays repeated viewing.
Okay.
Do you say so, Swiss Tone? I just was never a fan of in the first place, to be honest.
I mean, to be fair, looking back on it, I
And
do have to
that's
admit,
weird.
Xena was probably part of my sexual awakening as a child.
No, and
That's about it.
I was just about to say, and considering that I'm a white cis het male who was a teenager when that stuff was out, that's got to say how much I actually thought about the series that I wasn't watching Xena.
Yeah. Even you would have thought that the way she dressed alone would have been enough to keep your attention as a teenage boy in that era.
Yeah.
But
But
I do.
she's a good actress, that Lucy Lawless. She's actually very good. I mean, I don't know if you watched Battlestar Galactica at all. She had a recurring role in that. She was really good in that.
Yeah. I mean, I vaguely remember her from that. But she's the problem with kids' TV, especially in the 90s, and I do class that as kids' TV because that's how it was aimed in the UK. A lot of it just was, I don't know if it was because it was American or what, but it was just really hammy.
It was very, very campy sort of take on Greek mythology, those stories.
Yeah, because I remember Hercules was the same. He was very. I preferred Hercules to Xena from what I remember, but
yeah,
it was
well, I
very.
think from what I remember, Xena actually was introduced as a villain in Hercules, from what I remember.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that she and because eventually there was this whole love story going on as well with them. And it's like, looking back on it in the 90s, you sort of think, can we just have one media where the main guy and the main girl don't end up together? Can that be a thing? Please? It's not necessary.
The problem I'd also have going back and watching Hercules now is just knowing what a dick Kevin Sorbo is as well. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So I think I'd struggle to go back to that. But I mean, Swiss Tone was sort of saying something in there just before you come on about the live action Asterix movies, that they had this tendency to maybe Asterix and Obelix kind of came off as a bit as bullies in them, that the cartoonish violence didn't really transfer that well to the live action.
Yeah, because Asterix was.
I think he's got a good point, actually.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, if I was playing Obelix in D&D, he'd be a Goliath. He's that.
Yeah.
He'd be like a Goliath paladin with a club. That would be how I'd play, and that says everything about the character. I'd probably dump an intelligence stat as well. You kind of have to for Obelisk.
I tried to watch a couple of the live action. The first one I found watchable more because of Terry Jones's dubbing into English. That's the only reason I could watch it. That some of that dubbing was quite funny. That he did, which I'm sure was not how it was originally translated, is how it was originally said in French either. But Terry Jones was doing the majority of the voices, and that paid off. See, he obviously got the humor.
Yeah, because Terry Jones, excellent humor, and quite a voice actor. But I'm so tempted to just get the set and be like,
yeah. Well, that works well. That would have worked well because I know Terry Jones. I mean, he was very interested in sort of ancient history of that period anyway, because he did like a couple of documentary series on stuff like that. On
Terry Jones, he was the Python, wasn't he? It rings a bell.
Yeah, one who died a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know why. There's something about Terry Jones. He always reminds me, I should say, because he still kind of does, even though he's passed away. Do you remember the film Up Pompeii?
Oh, it was a TV series, wasn't it? Frankie Howard.
Yeah, so they did a film as well for it, yeah. And I could always see, in anything Frankie Howard's in, I could very easily see Terry Jones playing the same role. They've got that similar sort of vibe going on. And I'll never forget having a discussion with my dad about Frankie Howard. Like, I watched Up Pompeii when I was about 15 because someone gave me it. And I was like, Dad, why is this so camp? Is this, is it meant to be so camp? And my dad was like,
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was gay. I was like, you really? And what did you want him to do? Tattoo it on his forehead?
Yeah, he played up the stereotype thing as really for a character.
He really did, and he played it in all the sort of was it the carry-ons?
Yeah, he did some of them. I was never a big Carry On fan, to be honest, so I
No, I
wasn't
think the
couldn't
the
get
the
into
one
them.
where the teachers take them to camp is a fun one.
Yeah,
That's the only one I can happily say I would rewatch that I've seen. Is that Carry On Teaching or Carry On?
yeah.
Something like that. It's the one where the teacher
Well,
takes them to camp and all hell breaks loose.
yeah. Well, I was just looking at this. I'm going an hour and a bit now, and I've kind of got off the
Yeah.
subject there. I might bring the stream to an end, but if you want to hang about afterwards for a chat, we can do that.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Oh well. So I could probably bring this to an end, guys. That was just really a look back at my love of Asterix and a bit of a tribute to Albert Uderzo, and it'll be bit of a look back on my childhood in a sense. So it's been Jeff, God the Scummer. I'll probably be back with something a bit more along the lines of what I normally do in the next time I come back, I'd imagine. So see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.